It is now my privilege to introduce to you Ms. Julie Wilkerson, who is the counsel for the Gina Band of Choctaw Indians from Louisiana for our land acknowledgement.
Good morning, and I want to thank my friend Hope LaFleur for inviting me to come down and welcome this wonderful large group of folks from all over the United States. I had a pleasure to meet some of you yesterday after I arrived, and it was nice to visit with you, and I'm glad that I'm going before the Chief Justice because I don't want to have to, I know he's going to be much more articulate, and it's a pleasure to even be on the same stage with the Chief Justice of the Louisiana Supreme Court. So, Honorable Chief Justice Weimer. It's my pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the Gina Band of Choctaw Indians representing the tribe. It's the fourth federally recognized tribe in Louisiana. It is our great state of Louisiana. We are not only, and I'm not a member of the tribe, but I will say we because I've worked with the tribe for 24 years. But my tribe is not only citizens of the Gina Band of Choctaw Indians and the parish of LaSalle, Grant, and Rapides, which are the three tri-parish service area for the tribe, but also our great state of Louisiana, which has a history and culture we think like none other, as you probably have had some gumbo already, hopefully, and we've got a little cool in here and cooler weather outside so you can have gumbo while you're here in your 4 days. But we have the culture of French and Spanish and Caribbean, and one of my favorites is our Creole and Cajun. You probably heard Cajuns and our Creoles from up around Natchitoches Parish. But my ultimate favorite are the Native Americans in Louisiana, the 4 federally recognized tribes, 12 state recognized. And with the Native Americans, I did a presentation at Tulane Law, CLE, last year. And in researching, it was Native American 101, and the thing that I did realize, if you look at the map, I showed a map of 1492, the tribes in North America, it was in beige, and the whole of North America in 1492 was in beige. And then I had seen a map at one of my conferences that showed the land base in North America now, and especially in the United States that Native Americans have. 56 million acres. Boy, that sounds like a lot. It's 0.06% of the United States. So I say that to say this is about land acknowledgement and give you a little more specifics. The 4 federally recognized tribes in the lands. Tribes can have land, have achieved and encompassed or put together their land masses in a couple of different ways. There's treaties, and then there is land taken into trust, fee to trust applications, and that is for federally recognized tribes. There's 576 in the United States. As I said, there's 4 in Louisiana. The Gina Band is the 4th. There's the Chitimacha tribe that's very close to here in Charenton, Louisiana. There's the Tunica Biloxi tribe in Avoyelles Parish, and then there's the Cochata tribe in Allen Parish. When I started working with the tribe was fairly recognized in 1995. The other tribes were already doing gaming in 1993, so they were already recognized through either treaty or theirs were through treaty, and the tribe had to go through the federal acknowledgement process. So in 1995, the tribe was landless, but they established a constitution. We all need a constitution, and the land. I worked with the tribe in getting land into trust. It's a fee to trust application process, and I'm proud to say in 2003, the tribe that was recognized in 1995, the Gina Band of Choctaw Indians, was the land was declared the initial reservation, and the land was taken in trust in 2003, just over 60 acres. Since then, I've been working with the tribe for 24 years, and now we've amassed over 300 acres, and we have 300 more that were taken into trust by the Department of Interior, the Secretary of the Department of Interior. I mentioned the Constitution. The Constitution gives us the right to elect our officials. 24 years, I've only worked for 3 different chiefs, and they've all been women, and for the last 12 years, it's been an all-woman council. So the Chief Justice said, you have a chief. I do have a chief, and that's my boss, but the council too, an all-woman council, which is unusual in Indian country. I will also say we have our court system, and we established a court system in 2011, and I looked up, and I think that the Chief Justice's Louisiana Supreme Court was established in 1813, so I think they've been doing it longer than we have. But as a sovereign nation, the tribe can say, okay, what are our laws going to be, and we have a Tort Claim Act, and so we can, in our court system, we can, our judge, who is a retired district judge from the 9th JDC, can limit, under the Tort Claim Act, we limit the recovery and we limit the types of damages that are recoverable. But we do have a court administrator, and that's my paralegal, so we're getting our feet wet. But I'm wrapping up because I don't want to take all the time, and when you get started on first day of a conference, you don't want to start behind. So I want to say that your work that you do is extremely important, and I know you know that because you're here to learn during these next 4 days. It's a pleasure again on behalf of the Gina Band of Choctaw Indians to welcome you to the great state of Louisiana.
Thank you, Julie. It is now truly an honor to introduce to you our next speaker for our welcoming remarks, and that's the Honorable John L. Weimer, the Chief Justice for the Supreme Court of the state of Louisiana. The Chief has been on the bench for the Supreme Court bench for the past 24 years and has become Chief Justice in January 1st of 2021. The Chief served, he was originally a local guy here that was born and raised in Lafourche Parish, not far from here. He's really one of those contributing community members as well throughout his life, which has served him well and is now in his position as serving the people of the state of Louisiana. Just to give you a quick background on what the Chief has accomplished, from a professional perspective, he's established the Lafourche's Parish Drug Treatment Court, their Student Government Day program, and he served as a faculty member and full-time faculty member at his alma mater, Nicholls State University. But the Chief, what I also like about him is he's given back to his community, serving in the volunteer fire department, and he served in Thibodaux. Was it in Thibodaux, Chief? Thibodaux. And served as pastoral counsel at the Christ the Redeemer Catholic Church there. So he's an award-winning painter, and you can see some of his paintings at the Historical New Orleans Collection Museum, which is close. That's in Jackson Square?
No, sir, it's on Rawl Street.
Rawl Street, okay, thank you. So please feel welcome to check that out as well. But it's my pleasure to introduce to you the Chief Justice for the State Supreme Court of Louisiana, Mr. John L. Weimer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bonjour and bienvenue. That is Cajun for good morning and welcome. To the National Association of Court Management, we welcome you. I know many of you had a circuitous route getting here and were very much challenged in getting here, but it's so good to see so many people here in New Orleans. New Orleans, home of Mardi Gras scenes, voodoo queens, beignets, boudin, and red beans, world-class cuisines, Cajun and Creole dishes, including jambalaya, crawfish paella, filet gumbo, etouffee, courtbouillon, and sauce piquant, frog legs and fricassees, choux-pic balls, and oysters charbroiled. From every manner of God's creatures, harvested from some of the world's most productive estuaries, bayous, marshes, swamps, rivers, and the Gulf of Mexico. Louisiana is truly a gumbo mix of peoples, cultures, and cuisines, including Native Americans, Irish, Italian, French, German, Spanish, Anglo, African, Caribbean, Islano, Cajun, Vietnamese, Lebanese, Thai, Greek, and Philippine. Louisiana is truly unique. Welcome to our home, some of the world's nicest and most hospitable people. We celebrate almost weekly here with festivals ranging from the internationally known Mardi Gras, as I mentioned, the Jazz Fest, who hosted the Rolling Stones recently, and fairs and festivals donated to poor boys, Creole tomatoes, just to name a few. I understand the National Association for Court Management exists to advance the effective and efficient administration of justice and to provide a robust forum fostering innovative practices and professional development that inspires excellence in its membership, enhances public trust and confidence in our courts, embraces the fundamental duties and responsibilities inherent in an accountable and independent judicial branch of government. I'm proud to say that several key members come from the Pelican State, including past President Suzanne Stinson. Suzanne, I saw you earlier. Where are you located? Suzanne asked me some, I think 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, 9, 10 years ago to administer the oath of office to her. You know, she's not a Cadillac kind of girl. She's more of a fan of a Ford, which is her husband's name, of course. Also, past board member Carla Smith and current board member Dawn Palermo, who I believe started working when she was about 3, I guess, because she told me she has been working in that position for 27 years. Her youthful looks give that away. As you know, the annual conference will address leadership opportunities and challenges presented by the need to assist court leaders to continue into the future. Of course, this theme will be overarching, but some of the workshops will address the parallel themes of repurposing courts to focus on a mission, managing complex litigation, and directing the technological advances that will continue to be a significant part of the legal landscape. I understand that the artificial intelligence and the court's guide will be introduced and launched at this conference. At the Louisiana Supreme Court, we continue to grapple with AI, as many courts do, because it presents a host of possible issues implicating both judicial ethics and attorney professionalism. In January of this year, our judicial administrator sent a memo to all Louisiana state court judges that included the following. At the present time, the ethical and professional rules governing the bench and bar are robust and broad enough to cover the landscape of issues presented by AI in its current forms. However, that is always changing each and every day, it seems, almost. Regardless of the use of AI, judges have always been ultimately responsible for their opinions and decisions for maintaining professional competence in judicial administration, which includes competence in technology, and for protecting confidential information. These obligations remain unchanged or unaffected by the availability of AI. Likewise, attorneys practicing in Louisiana have always ultimately been responsible for their work product and pleadings they file in court, maintaining competence in technology and protecting confidential client information, and have a duty to avoid making misrepresentations of law or facts. That memo to state court judges and attorneys also cited relevant provisions of the Louisiana Code of Judicial Conduct and Louisiana Rules of Professional Conduct applicable to attorneys practicing in the state. That short excerpt that I just read to you actually contains no fewer than 15 citations to our code of judicial conduct and our rules of professional conduct. So the current thinking is that in its present form, the recent proliferation of artificial intelligence in the legal world is controlled by the existing rules, actually a number of existing rules. But our view may change, obviously, as artificial intelligence is rapidly evolving and increasingly being adapted in use in more areas of our daily lives. I look forward to the report and conclusions that you have developed as we all grapple with these issues. A couple of years ago, Judge Scott Slagle of Jefferson Parish, Dawn's home parish, was honored with the Rehnquist Award. And his expertise in technology rendered him worthy of that prestigious national award named after Chief Justice William Rehnquist. I was asked to write a letter of recommendation, and so I outlined all of the outstanding accomplishments that he had, particularly in technology, and then concluded by saying, just to demonstrate he's a regular sort of guy, he and I also together ride motorcycles. Very fast motorcycles, but all within the speed limit. And when Chief Justice John Roberts was going through the last few resumes, he talked to Mary McQueen and said, I really like this guy from Louisiana, but I read the letter from the Chief Justice, and he said he rode motorcycles. Does he have a brain? And Mary said, are you talking about the chief or Judge Slagle? I said, well, apparently both of them, because they both ride motorcycles. She said, well, I know the chief very well, and I'm sure he has a brain, and I'm going to assume because he rides motorcycles with Judge Slagle, he has a brain also. The Chief Justice said, well, I'll go ahead with the guy from Louisiana that you recommended. I don't know if you saw this recent study about AI, but they did this very detailed, lengthy analysis testing AI in certain applications. And they fed into AI a query during this deep dive study, and it said, would one be better off purchasing a watch that lost a second every 100,000 years, or a watch that did not function at all? And AI's response was, take the watch that doesn't function at all, because it will be right twice a day. The other watch will be accurate once every 200,000 million years. Now, we have to be careful in harnessing these items, and always we have to use our common sense to make certain. We just saw, and you've experienced, a very challenging and circuitous route to get here. And we know that was done because they were trying to improve the system slightly to prevent against hacking, and it ended up hacking all the systems. Even my daughter sat on a tarmac for 3 hours, and my wife researched it, and there's a law that says you can only sit on a tarmac for 2 hours maximum. But that was the difficulty. I talked to a number of people who are still waiting on their luggage and had to rely on the old-fashioned way to get here, not flying, but driving here instead of flying because they couldn't get a plane out. I know that you will be incredibly busy with this conference. You have 3 plenary sessions, 1 super session, and over 30 workshops. With that, I will leave you to your work. When I had to give a commencement address, a teacher that was very near and dear to me from my where I went to undergraduate school, Harvard. That's Harvard on the Bayou, Nichols State University in Thibodaux, as it's known. sent me a note when I asked him for some advice on giving this lecture, and he said, he sent me a quote from Ogden Nash, and it went as follows: "Speaker, oh speaker, you live under a delusion. The words the audience longs to hear is, in conclusion." So I'll conclude with that by saying welcome to New Orleans once again. We are so pleased, Mr. President, that you have chosen our state for your conference. For those of you who are here in person, and I understand there are many viewing this remotely, I urge you and hope that you get to do some sightseeing in the French Quarter, one of the truly unique, most European areas of our country, where the Louisiana Supreme Court building is located. And maybe we can talk and we can arrange a potential visit to the Supreme Court if that's not on the agenda already. The building, I'm told by many people who visit it, is probably among the most stately and lovely state Supreme Court buildings in our nation. I hope that you also indulge in the culinary delights. Y'all are here at a time when they have some specials. It's called culinary. It's kind of done in July and August, which is kind of a slow time for this area because of the heat. But for a nominal price, you can get a 3-course meal that is really exquisite and outstanding. So I urge you to take advantage of that. Artificial intelligence might be able to stimulate pictures and videos, but to the best of my knowledge and belief, I don't think there is any convincing simulation of authentic New Orleans cuisine, at least yet. Thank you so very much for allowing me to be with you this morning and honoring us here in Louisiana with your presence. I realize, again, how difficult for many of you it was to get here, but I think, and I pray that it will be worth the visit. You know, there are just a lot of things. I urge you to take a streetcar ride down St. Charles Avenue for, again, a nominal price. And then there is a ferry boat ride right near here where you can go to Algiers and see the Mississippi River, that magnificent tributary that drains most of our country. And it's a really neat community on the other side of the river that most people overlook. But just riding across the river is a big thrill. I assure you, you get to see some rather large boats up close, sometimes too close for comfort. Again, thank you so much. And I welcome you once again to New Orleans and to Louisiana. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chief Justice Weimer. At this time, I'd like to introduce the individuals who make up the NACM Board of Directors. To say they do an incredible amount of work, volunteer work, is really an understatement. If you really want an accurate perception of what the amount of time that's involved, I would say you can venture anywhere from about 20 to maybe as many as 60 hours a month of volunteer work, and it really depends upon your role. And I'm just thrilled to announce this board because I can say that to you, as you see our photos up there, that this board is something, and the individuals here in this room as well, is something as president you think about each and every day of your time as in your tenure as president. I can tell you that that took place even on Christmas Day, that I was thinking of and so grateful to have such a fantastic collection of individuals and court professionals. So let's get to it, and let's introduce, if you would please hold your applause until the end while I introduce all our folks. First and foremost, our President-elect, Ms. Tina Madison from the state of Arizona. That's okay. Our Vice President from North Dakota, Kelly Hutton. Our Secretary Treasurer from the state of New Jersey, Mr. Greg Lambart. Our immediate past president from the state of Texas, Mr. Jeffrey Sinakawa. Our directors from the state of Hawaii, or better known as Paradise, Mr. Brandon Kimura. From the state of Georgia, Christy Collier. From Wilton Rancheria Nation, Cheryl Stone. Also from the state of Georgia, Nathaniel Mingo. He wanted me to say, go dogs. From Arizona, Nicole Garcia. From Oregon, Roger Rand. From the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Mr. Creedell Webb. And from our host state, from Louisiana, Ms. Dawn Palermo. Please join me in thanking them all. It's now a pleasure to introduce our past presidents and recognize those individuals. There were so many of them that are registered for this conference. A few of them were still stranded in faraway airports like Chicago O'Hare, among others, and they were unable to attend, but we're going to recognize them today anyway. First of all, we'll start off in alphabetical order. Mr. T.J. Bement, please hold your applause until the end as well. Kevin Bowling, Paul Burke, Vicki Carlson, Jana Cornell, Paul Delash, Jude Del Prior, Kathy Griffin, Pam Harris, Norman Meyer, Michelle Oken-Stewart, Marcus Rankensmeyer, Will Simmons, David Slayton, and Suzanne Stinson. Please welcome them with a round of applause. I'd also like to recognize two individuals who could not be here, but without their logistical and financial support, these conferences would not take place. First, from thanking our financial sponsors, the State Justice Institute, and specifically their executive director, Jonathan Mattiello. And SJI has made it possible for NACM to offer these conference recordings for those of you who are joining us online, and the live streaming of educational sessions throughout the next 4 days. Additionally, several of the valuable resources that NACM presents, such as our on-site trainings in regional areas, as well as webinars, have been made, and our guides, particularly the AI guide and the DEI guide that we had last year. It wouldn't be possible without the funding from the SJI. So I want to thank Jonathan. You see his picture on the screen here, who's the executive director, and thank their board, the SJI board, for their support of NACM. Sorry, Wes, I kind of screwed you up here. We'll go back one slide. I'd also like to recognize Mary McQueen and her staff. Mary, unfortunately, was attempting to be here and to meet with the board, and of course, her flight got canceled as well, and was told that there will be no more flights out of Richmond to New Orleans. So, like many of those who could not attend, she ran into some travel troubles. But I do want to recognize her association services staff, who has been fantastic. Those are the folks that you see at the registration desk, and some of them are in this room. First of all, we'll start off with Valerie Gardner, and Val's in the back there, and Aaron Carr, our association manager. And they... There's two other special ladies that are also at the registration desk, and if you have an opportunity to say thank you to them, Ms. Cassie Bradshaw, who works very closely as well with Aaron, and Ms. Stacy Smith, who also works very closely with Valerie, and Stacy is also the executive assistant to Mary McQueen. So we thank the National Center for the Association Services they provide to this organization. Very special thanks as well to the volunteer hosts that we have for this conference. And those hosts are, and you see them listed on the screen here, these are individuals who just signed up and said, yeah, I will go and I will introduce a speaker and I will take care of the administrative issues for each educational session. So all these folks are volunteering, and we are really pleased and honored that we have so many that are willing to take on this issue. So thank you very much, and let's give those folks a round of applause as well. I'm pleased to welcome our NACM partners, and our justice partners are critical, and you see many of them here on the screen, for the exchange of ideas. And many of these that you'll hear throughout the board that met on Saturday, we talked a lot about our interaction with several of these partners. Some of them that you'll hear about the AI Guide that was partnered with the Conference of State Court Administrators, CTOC, who I will describe here in a moment, and the National Center for State Courts and IGES. So all these partners are at one point, they ebb and flow in their work with NACM, but they always are an integral part of what we do, an integral part of our success. So for those partners that are in the room, if you would please stand, and we'll hold our applause till the end. The Court Information Technology Officers Consortium, better known as CTOC, Mr. Casey Kennedy. The Conference of Court Public Information Officers, Sean O'Sullivan. I know this next individual is not here, but we do want to recognize him because he has been a wonderful liaison from the Conference of State Court Administrators, Mr. Jeff Shorba. The president of the International Association for Court Administration, Luis Maria Palma. The National Association of State Judicial Educators, President Jeff Schrade. And of course, the National Center for State Courts, and John Bayo, the Executive Director of the National Association of Presiding Judges and Court Executive Officers, or NAPCO. Let's give those folks a round of applause. And lastly, I know you're saying, God, isn't he done yet? Well, we're getting there. We welcome the representatives from leaders and state leaders and regional association leaders who might be in this ballroom. So if you are representing a state association or a regional association, whether as a president or an officer or a leader of that organization, will you please stand? There are more than a few of you. You're just being shy. And thank you all. That is another one of the very important justice partners for NACM. It's now my pleasure to introduce to you again Tina Madison, who will talk to you. We'll get this conference started now, and let's get it going. And when Tina will be introducing our plenary speaker. Ms. Tina Madison, President-elect of NACM.
Rick forgot to introduce himself. From the great state of Pennsylvania, our president, Rick Pierce. So welcome, everybody. There are a lot of people in the back. Please, there are seats up front. We don't bite. Come forward. Come, sit, be comfortable. Stay a while. All right, welcome to our conference. If you see on the screen, it's Leadership Opportunities and Challenges for Our Nation's Court. And the subtitle is Leading Leaders into the New Tomorrow. This conference theme was selected by the Conference Development Committee and myself because I really wanted to focus on leadership. We have a wonderful opportunity coming into this next decade, and I see it in this audience. There's so many first-time attendees to this conference. If you're a first-time attendee, please raise your hand. Woo! Thank you for joining us and welcome, and we really have a great annual conference planned for you with plenary sessions, with super sessions, with workshops. So make sure you go into your app and look for all of those sessions. And I just want to also identify that we have 4 different tracks within our the conference, focusing on leadership, focusing on diversity, equity, and inclusion, the NACM core, which you will be hearing a lot about, and technology. We've talked about rolling out the AI guide. So it's chock full of information. Look, more people. Come forward. So again, check your app for all of that information about the speakers, the times, the locations, and be sure to rate your sessions and your speakers in the app. It's very important. So I get to introduce our keynote, and I'm really excited about this. Val Grubb is going to help us elevate our game. She's going to move us from tactical thinker to strategic leader. She has helped companies throughout the nation elevate their bottom line and really get their employees thinking as leaders, and that's really important. Her keynotes and trainings are based over her 20 years of senior leadership at Rolls-Royce Aircraft before helping found Interactive Corporation, parent company to Expedia, Home Shopping Network, and Ticketmaster. She then went on to work for Oprah Winfrey, helping to found the Oxygen Channel, which was later sold to NBC Universal. That may be a NACM game trivia question, just saying. Valerie obtained her mechanical engineering degree from Kettering University and her MBA from the Indiana University Kelley School of Business. Val's book, Clash of the Generations, Managing the New Workplace Reality, has really helped people identify those generational issues in the workplace, and she's going to be teaching a workshop later on today. So be sure to look for that after the plenary. With that, I'd like to welcome up Val Grubb.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I like it. All right. So it was funny last night when Jude told me it was NACM. So I was asking, how do you pronounce it? And I thought, did he just say naked? And I went, can you say that one more time? And I noticed that the chief just didn't mention our naked bike ride. And I thought, well, you rascally court managers coming to New Orleans for the naked stuff. I like it. So anyway, this is going to be a little different than what we've heard so far, but really what I'm focused on is talking about leadership. I will take questions at the end, so please, please write down whatever as you go along. Delighted to answer any specific questions that you have. And we're really going to focus on this idea of elevating our leadership because it's hard, right? Like leadership has gotten harder. It was always hard, but it's just gotten harder as every year that goes by. And so that's why I'm going to talk about what it means, strategy versus the tactical side of things. Now, as I was researching NACM, I did really love this whole core program because I felt like it was the great mix of tactical, yet still bringing in the strategic side of things. And so I'm going to talk about how these two kind of marry up because I love this again, where you've got the practice side of things, the purposes and responsibilities, yet you're also bringing in the vision side of things. And all of this together then creates this public trust and confidence. Now, I want to throw out something to you. How do you spend your day? How do you spend your day? What I want you to think about, when you think about the effort you put in versus the impact that you have to your court, the impact that you have to your community, are you focused on things that have either low impact or that are a lot of effort or a little effort? So, and what I want you to do is think about those things that is going to have a high impact on your organization, on your court system. What and how much time are you spending in those things that are going to have a high impact? And what I want you to do is each week, I want you to look at your schedule and say that I cannot get caught up in all the tactical side of things. Because how many times have you just looked up, you wake up and you're like, oh my God, it's Friday? You gotta be kidding me. Like, what have I done this week? What have I done? Because what happens is we get in and the day just kind of goes away from us. So what we want to do is start to think strategically and going, by gosh, you know what? This week I'm going to make sure that I have at least 50% of my week that is on projects that have a high impact. Either those that require little effort or those that require a lot more effort, but they're going to have more of a major impact. I want you to seize control of your day and of your week and of your time, because there is nothing more important than your time right now. This is the commodity right now. Time is the commodity, even more so than money. So every week I want you to think about, how am I going to spend my day? How am I going to spend my week? And I'm going to come in and try to seize control. Now I understand things come up, but that's all right. We want to go immediately back to those things that have a long-term impact to the organization, that have a greater impact to the organization. Now, what we're going to talk about today in relation to the core, I want to talk about 4 skills that really, as we think about elevating our game. We're going to talk about communication. We're going to talk about getting stuff done by motivating others. We're going to talk about inspiring others, and then developing your team. All skills that are staggeringly important to your millennials, to your Gen Z, to other folks who are just starting out in their careers. These are folks who who's heard from you want to move up quickly. Have you heard that from any of your younger? Yeah, absolutely. And we go, oh, what's wrong with him? Are you kidding? When I started my career, I wanted to move up. You got to be kidding me. That's what this is about when you're in your 20s. You want to move up, and you want to move up fast. And that's, by the way, that's the sort of person that I want working for me, because they want to learn. They want to expand their skill set. And it's my opportunity to take advantage of that through my leadership, through elevating these folks so that I can get them up contributing faster. And we'll talk more about that this afternoon, as Tina said. I've got a session on generations. But today, again, just understand that all they're doing is being the 20-year-old that we were when we were back there. Now, and the last piece I'll say about this, who's got a child that's, let's say, 35 and under? Let's see, raise those hands really, really high. Now what I want you to do like this. There we go. We've met the enemy. And he is us. So just please understand that I hope that somebody is taking good care of the folks that I care about who are younger than 35, as much as I hope that I'm taking care of folks who are 35. So let's talk about how we tap into that. Leading change, boy, oh boy, this is a really tough topic. The challenge is look, I get it, it's uncomfortable, it's natural that people resist, adapting isn't easy and we can't anticipate it, right? A lot of times, sometimes we drive change, other times it happens to us and drives to us, but please just understand that it is not going away, it's not gonna be easy, and it's not slowing down. It is no one else's responsibility either. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we have to think about is we want to drive change. We want to be those folks who are leading. Chief Justice talked about this idea of AI. And what other changes do we need to implement that's going to help our employees, that's going to help the public to gain more trust, to help them quicker and easier to be able to gain access to justice? These are things that really matter, and how we can come back and really set our mark and help to build that trust with our communities. And change, when we think about this idea of change, is how much time do you focus on what should change? When we think about that time of strategic, I talked about strategic, are you spending your time on tactical versus strategic initiatives? How much time do you think about what should change because it's going to be better for either the public or for our employees or our judges. And I always say, what's the one thing that you hear more often from your employees or from your judges that they want to change? That's at the top of the list. What is your pain point? What is your pain point? And focus on that so that, again, to give a better experience to employees, give a better experience to your judges, to pretty much the constituents, everybody who comes into your courtroom, that comes into your court. We want to have them have a pleasant experience so that it helps to build trust versus the fact that this is a scary situation, that it's scary. And so we want to drive change. We want to lead that change. We want to listen to what our employees have to say and involve them in the change, because if we do that, what happens? If we involve folks in the change, they're more committed. They're more committed. We got to drive home the why of change. Even if somebody comes back and says, oh, I've got this great idea. All right, tell me more. All right, you know what? I really loved what you suggested. We can't do 100% of it because here's why, but I can do about 60% of it. What do you think of that? Will that help? Because if I'm coming in and involving them in the process, I'm listening to them, I'm sharing the why, I've got a better chance of them getting on board. And it is all really about leading change and about really meeting the needs of what our employees are, and again, what our audiences, what the people coming in are needing assistance with. So we want to drive that change to be the person who is really the leader of the future and helping the organization, helping our courts to meet the needs that are going on. Now, we've got pillars of trust when it comes to strong communication. And by the way, I think all these slides are in your app. Okay, perfect. So I also have a summary in there, and also I have a technology summary in there. So feel free to, like I said, you can use these. There's no copyright on any of this. Feel free to use this as much as you need to. All right, so when we think about this idea of pillars of trust, it really is about understanding clear and concise in your expectations and direction. This is staggeringly important because understand, I can't hold anybody accountable unless I am very clear in what it is that I'm expecting from somebody. Now, who gets to decide if I'm clear or not? Who gets to decide? Exactly, they do. It's not me, because I have had some beautiful soliloquies, and then people go, all right, walk me through what I've just asked you to do, and you're like, what? That's what you heard? Huh. Exactly. So I don't get to decide if I'm clear and concise. It's whoever I'm speaking with. So I can't hold somebody accountable until I come back and make sure that I'm being as clear and concise as I can. And providing direction, providing that why. How often do we take the time to explain why we're doing something? I can tell you that this is not untypical for Gen Z and millennials to ask, well, why are we doing it this way? If I cannot explain why we're doing it that way, then I can tell you they're right. Why are we doing it this way? Now, my next response is, if you have a way to do it easier, better, faster, quicker, I'm all ears. But asking why, we need to be able to share that. And if we can't, then you got to ask, why are we doing it? Why are we doing it? Why are we doing it this way? I'm all ears for listening to you and hearing what you have to suggest. And that's how we get younger employees to stay with us and stay with us longer, because they have a voice and that we actually care what they have to say. That's how we go and retain employees. Next, actively listens to everybody. I want you to listen to the most junior person in your court. I want you to listen to the most senior person in your court. Because if you're not listening to me, that says that you don't care. And then, what's my response to that? Why should I care if you don't care what I have to say? So as we think about this being strategic, It is, and do you really care where your great ideas come from? Do you care? No. I want great ideas coming from everybody. I want everybody coming forward and giving out their ideas and their suggestions so that we can improve the court system for the folks who are coming in. Remember, getting better for our customers. We want to make, so I worked, as Tina said, I helped to found the Oxygen Channel for Oprah. And I remember so we had this fabulous deal. Everybody wants to be associated with Oprah. And I did this fabulous deal with Staples, got this massive discount we were in, and we got great payment terms, all this sort of stuff, and we got shut off. So we couldn't order office supplies. I'm like, who gets shut off from being able to order office supplies? So I call her rep, and I'm like, hey, Diane, what's the scoop? We've been shut off. And she's like, well, Val, you haven't paid your bills. I'm like, all right. I get you. I totally understand. Hold on one second. Just let me find out what's going on. So I go up to Ann. Ann is the person in finance who hits the button that transfers the money or cuts the checks, whatever your pleasure. So she is the woman who does it. I'm not going to her boss. I'm going to the woman who hits the button that transfers the money. And I'm like, hey, Ann, we haven't been paying. We just got shut off from Staples. We haven't been paying our bills. She's like, yep, I can see it right here. I'm like, all right. Well, what do you think happens? What happens if you, Ann, don't pay your rent or pay your mortgage? She said, well, chances are I'm going to lose my house. I said, how about with your car? Yeah, same for my car. I said, yeah. I said, and the challenge is then you can't get good credit. It affects your credit, all of these things. And I said, so what do you think it is for companies that do the same thing? And she said, well, I've never thought about it, but I bet you it's the same. I said, it is. It is because we don't get favorable credit terms. I can't get companies to come back and give us good deals because we don't pay our bills. It was the first time I could physically see her sit up and understand. And I said, Ann, you are not hitting the button that pays bills. You are protecting Oxygen's reputation. You are building Oxygen's reputation. That's what you're doing. I'm connecting her to something that is bigger than merely hitting the button. Paying people. I am connecting her, making sure that she understands why what she does is so critical. I did that with my receptionist. I said, you are the first face of Oxygen Media. If you're having a bad day, you need to call us. You need to call one of us, and we'll come in there and sit so that hopefully you can come back and get out of this bad mood. Because you are the first face of Oxygen Media. So connecting people to something bigger than what they do. And let me just say this. Look, if I'm connecting people, I don't know, anybody watch the Oxygen Channel when it was around? Look, we made bad TV, all right? That's what we did. We made bad TV. And I can tell you that if I can connect somebody to making bad TV and care about it, you're actually doing great things in the world. You're actually, you're doing amazing things in the world. And if I can connect somebody to a mission of making bad TV and making them sit up and care more about their job and understand that what they do matters, I can tell you, you easily can do this because of the fact that what you do really, really matters. And so we forget that once we've been in place a while. We forget that people don't make that connection. Ann doesn't understand that. And by the way, after that, Ann went out and spoke. She said, Val, you know what? Let me go talk to people and find out why they're not signing off on these invoices. Because that's what's happening. And she can't hit the button. I totally get that. She can't hit the button. So now I've got Ann going out trying to figure out why people are struggling, and she's going to help them. And that's exactly what she did. She rose up the ranks at Oxygen Media. When we sold the organization to NBC Universal, she went over there and is a VP in finance. That's the level of commitment that you can come in and get by connecting somebody to the bigger picture of what they're doing. And again, we forget that. We forget that because we're in the tactical every day. We're in the, you know what? I got 50 things I got to get done today. I got a laundry list this wide. Have I come in and made sure that what people do, they understand that what they do matters, that how important their role is in achieving your goals and objectives. So we have to think about that. Makes everybody feel like they're seen and that they're heard and that they matter. Let me tell you, the moment you don't matter, bag it. I will go somewhere else for more money, even if it's a quarter more, or maybe it's less. Because if I don't matter, you won't even know that I'm gone. Again, think about this strategic way that we can come in. How many times have you walked down a hallway in your courtroom, in your court? Your mind's going 1,000 miles an hour, got tons of things on your mind. Oh my God, is this going to be a stressful day? Stressful, stressful, stressful. And you know, I walk right by somebody, forget to say hello because I didn't even notice them. Not because I wanted to ignore them, but because my mind was elsewhere. You don't think anybody comes in and clocks that up? I'm not even worthy of a hello. I'm not even worthy of a hello. Learn folks' names. Learn something about them. This is strategic retention. Because if folks are part of a team, if what they do matters, if they matter, I got a harder time at saying goodbye. Got a harder time going somewhere else because what I do matters. What I do matters. Proactively share information. Look, I get it. You know, you can't always. I understand that. But where you can, the more that people feel like they're part of a team, feel like they are part of something, it helps to retain them, helps to keep them on longer. And that is most definitely part of retaining employees and taking that strategic long-term approach to having employees that stay with us for a really, really long time. Think about your succession plan. It's part of what we're going to talk about today. I've got a great leadership development plan to share with y'all. And it's about this idea of really where I can sharing information so that people feel a part of something. Now, you got to notice the good and the bad. So they say in schools that typically it's 5 positive to every 1. You can see it. I've seen it anywhere from 4 to 6 positive comments to every 1 area where we're going to come back and what constructive criticism, right? Constructive feedback. I clock that. Particularly your younger employees, we have to notice the good. And by the way, good job is not good feedback. Good job for showing up. Good job for my choice of clothes, my necklace. What does good job mean? If I want continued great behavior, I need to come back and say, hey, what you did right here was absolutely fantastic. I thought it was very insightful. Loved how you solved that problem. I saw that somebody was really, really upset. Talk to me. How did you do that? How did you calm them down? It was a really fantastic job. Is that something we can teach others? Now what I'm doing is I'm recognizing the good at the same time that I'm coming in and recognizing when things need to be better. And if all I do is slam somebody every time they do something wrong, all I'm doing is beating down their confidence. So I have to recognize the good and the bad. All right, runs great meetings. You look at that and you go, wow, that feels like an oddball, Val. How many times have you sat through a meeting and you went, wow, I just want to yeah. Let me dive off this stage and go, wow. Hopefully you're not saying that right now. Running good meetings is respect. That's why we need to come in and run good meetings. Meetings that people actually look forward to, people that that everybody's involved, everybody has their voice heard. All that is respect. So that's why we want to run good meetings, because we want to respect people's time. Look, I know this sounds crazy. You look at this, but being friendly, polite, approachable, positive, Nobody wants to be around Bob the Downer. You don't. Life is hard enough without coming in, and I understand you are under a tremendous amount of pressure. I completely get that. But if you approach things in a positive manner, or if every day is the sky's falling, what's going to happen is that's going to exude out to all of your employees. And guess what? The sky's falling to them as well. And they're panicked. They're not solving issues. Instead of just relaxing, we'll get this figured out. We'll get this figured out. So being in that manner, does your absolute brand new person feel like they can walk up to you and say, hey, I've got a question about something? If they don't, we want to focus on being approachable so that anybody who works for us feels like they have direct access to you, that they have direct access to the son who's running the show. Because that's certainly what the younger folks want, because they want to be closer, they want to learn. I'm telling you, people look up to you. Somebody in your organization, probably some bodies, want to be you. And so how can we get it to an environment where it is very approachable and they can come see you and say, hey, I have a question. What's my career path? How do I be you? And what an amazing thing that you can do by the sheer power that you have in your hands of coming in and making somebody's day or destroying somebody's day. That's the power that you have in your court management role. That is the power. I always say that I always wanted people coming into the office to be the best part of their day. You do not know what somebody's home life is like. And what I want is for 8 hours a day, I want people coming in going, wow, am I excited to be here? Even on the tough days. It's exciting, we can get through this. What help do you need? What help do you need? I'm here to make sure that everybody's successful because we don't know what their home life is like. And so be the place that people want to come in every day and be excited the fact that they are lucky enough to work in your court. How exciting. That's somebody who's going to stay with you a long time. Or think twice before going out and looking for something else. That's the strategy in this. This isn't about, yes, you've got tactical things you have to get done. But the strategy is making somebody think twice before they go update their LinkedIn. In that lies the strategy. So we want confidence, but we want empathy in there. And show that your employees that you care about them. Look, I can come in and I can hold somebody accountable at the same time that I'm empathetic. We all have lives outside of life. We all have lives outside of work. So I can come back and be empathetic at the same time that I can come back and say to somebody, look, I hear you and I'm really sorry that all this is going on. So talk to me about how we can also get your job done. Talk to me. I had a long-term employee who worked for me, Mary, possibly one of the best sourcing people that I have ever had the privilege of working with. She lost her husband of like 45 years. I can't imagine like dating somebody 45 days, let alone being married for 45 years. I was like, and I'm telling you, Mary was an A++ employee. And she was lucky to find the door every day. So I said to Mary, you know what we're going to do? I want to check in the morning. I want to check in at lunch. I gave Mary one thing in the morning and one thing in the afternoon, and I dictated her schedule because she was unable to think. Getting into the office was challenging for her. Now, yes, was she as productive? Absolutely not. But she was there, she was able to get things done, and I showed empathy, and as she came out of this, tell me think about how dedicated she is to me. She'll never leave because of the fact of being able to be empathetic and coming back and also being able to hold her accountable and just understand that Mary's not at her best right now. Had Anthony, whose wife had twins. He was a disaster. He come in with like barf down his shirt. I'm like, dude. I'm like, you You got to bring shirts in. Like, you've got to have shirts in here. I want them in here so that when you realize that you don't, that you smell, that we got something for you to change into. So again, I can be empathetic, and what happens is that I've got an employee who's more dedicated, but I'm still holding them accountable. And I'm reducing the load to help them get through. Now, I've talked a lot about feedback. So many people avoid feedback. Why is that? Why do we avoid giving people challenging feedback or constructive feedback? Everybody's going, oh, I give feedback. They want to take it the wrong way. Yeah, exactly. We don't want them to take it the wrong way. Why else? Crying hard. Exactly. All of these things suck. I mean, let me just say that. But that is the job you took on when you were a leader. That is what you agreed to when you took on a leadership role. That I am going to be brave in the face of giving feedback that's challenging. And so how do we come in and approach this? I've got 6 steps for actionable feedback. And when we think about actionable, what do I mean by that? What do I mean by actionable? Yeah, exactly. Something that they can do something about. When I first started in engineering, my boss told me, again, I'm in my 20s. Of course, I'm like, all right, what do I have to do to get this leadership role? And it was managing, it was like managing a small group of folks. He said, well, you're just not ready for a leadership role. I said, I got it. Totally understand. Tell me what I need to do to come back and so that a year from now or 6 months from now, I'm going to be ready. And you're going to go, wow, Val, yes, you're ready to be a leader. Well, I can't really put my finger on it. But you're just not quite ready for leadership. Do you know how fast I left that guy? Left him as his manager? Are you kidding? If you can't pinpoint where I need to improve in order to be a leader, I don't want to work for you. Because you don't know. I cannot achieve something that I've got nothing to shoot for. So we want to come in and be very actionable. I want people to do something different based on the feedback that I am giving them. And so I think about, gosh, I'll tell you, I had a boss. So I got out of working for this gentleman, went to work for another guy. And I got my first, so I went to work for another guy, and then I got my first promotion. Well, let me tell you, I could barely get my head through the door before. Again, I'm in my 20s. Like, I'm awesome. Like, that's everybody. We want that, because let me tell you, work will beat it out of you. Work will beat that confidence out of you. So I was in my 20s, got my first promotion. I mean, I could barely fit through the door before. Now I'm like stuffing my head through. And I go in my first meeting in R&D marketing. I work for a gentleman named Dave Quick. I went into the first meeting and we were looking up contacts. It was R&D marketing. So we were looking at an Excel spreadsheet list of customers and potentially who we were going to reach out for marketing efforts and all this. And I just slaughtered them. I'm like, oh my God, you're using Excel? This is ridiculous. Why aren't you using like a CRM system like PeopleSoft or something? I'm like, this is so antiquated. It's ridiculous. So I go back to my office and I'm like, oh my God. And then my boss calls me in and I'm thinking, I'm going to get another promotion. Like seriously. I'm like, oh my God, I have just helped. They have just proved why they needed me in this department. And Dave says to me, Val, did you notice that you turned everybody off by what you said? And I'm like, what? He said, you basically just called us idiots. He said, Val, we just moved it into Excel. And now and he said, pretty much you told us we were idiots. And I went, huh. He said, how else could you have presented it that would have had people wanting to hear more? That is a fabulous leader right there who is taking the strategic game. He could have slaughtered me because I was young stupid, for presenting, for doing it in such a manner, but he did not. He came back and gave me fabulous feedback, had me think about how I could present this. And he said, and I went and presented to him how I would try. He helped me tweak it, and he said, all right, you got to build up trust because you've just called us idiots. So how long do you suggest until you present this again? And I said, well, you know what? I don't know. And he said, that's a very fair answer. He said, when you feel you're ready, come back and we will have you present this in a manner that's going to get people to go, ooh, tell me more. Look at what a leader Dave was. Instead of slaughtering me for a poor presentation on how to come up with people, he taught me, he gave me feedback that was actionable, that I came back and was able to do something different. 6 months I went in and presented it. At a year, we implemented it. So that's a leader. Be that leader who can come in and provide firsthand experience, who can identify that action or behavior, who can describe what did or didn't work, who can then tell me, what are other options? What are other options? And by the way, involve me or don't. Dave asked me, he said, how do you think you could have presented this differently? So that got me thinking, and I'm like, I don't know, because I was so flamboozled from the fact that I'd done such a poor job. Again, I'm thinking I'm getting promoted. So I'm like, I don't know. And he said, that's all right. Go back and think about it, but you got to come back to me tomorrow and with an idea on how to do this. And so he involved me in this process instead of treating me like an idiot. Now, he came back and said why it was important that I come in and change how I presented it. So I understood the why behind it. Again, I'm young. I don't understand that. I don't know that. And so Dave came in, and then he followed up and said, all right, you tell me when you feel like you're ready to present this opportunity. And you know what I did then? I said to him, I don't know exactly when I'm going to present this, but the one thing I'm going to do is I think I'm going to listen more and talk less. And I can assure you that is very difficult for me because I'm a talker. And he said, you know what? I think that's an outstanding idea. So this is how we be strategic in giving feedback. And I know that it's hard. I know that it's terrible. It's tough. Somebody cries, somebody gets angry. That's all right. That's just emotions. That's emotional EQ. EQ. If somebody gets all bent out of shape, what's happened is they've just had an emotional hijacking. Give them time. Give them time and say, look, I can see that you're upset. We have to have this conversation. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time to calm down. And then we're going to come back and have this conversation again. Would that work for you? And by the way, all they're doing is being human. That's how EQ works. All thoughts come in and out of your brain through the back of your head right here, through your spinal cord. It goes through the emotional side of your brain first. So you getting emotional is nothing short of being human. So Mary, the woman whose husband lost her husband at 45 years, I could literally tell her, hey, Mary, this is absolutely fantastic, but would you mind printing it on pink paper versus white paper? And she would cry. I'm telling you, she was such a perfectionist that she could not even take that. And that's all right. You know what? No worries, go back. Again, she's an A++ employee. I'm gonna put up with this. I'm like, all right, go back, hang for a second. When you're ready to continue discussing, let me know. And swing in, because she's an A++. And all I'm doing is tapping into how to lead her. Now, next, getting stuff done. So understand, you as a leader, it's about getting stuff done through other people. That means we gotta let go. Means we have to let go of that same perfectionist. Any perfectionists in the group? Oh yeah, oh wow, a lot of, yeah. Wow, all right. Yeah, it's hard to let go, right? Guess what? They're not gonna do it like you do it. Focus on the end result. Perfection can take forever. Is 90% good enough? Figure out how you can let that go to let someone else get to 90%, to learn from it, to get to 90%. And guess what? That will give me time, that will give you time to focus on strategic issues if I can just let 10% go. If I can let 10% go. Now, when we think about embracing accountability, this isn't about control. This is about motivating and commitment. It's about being part of a team that you care about. And your linchpin is what sets that tone. Your linchpin, your leadership is the linchpin that decides whether or not people want to come in every day and do their best, or whether or not this is a job, and the moment I got an opportunity to go somewhere else, I'm going to. That's you who has that linchpin, and are folks part of something? So as we think about driving accountability, we need to be staggeringly clear on roles and responsibilities, meaning what am I going to hold you accountable for? You don't get to decide that clarity. They get to decide that clarity. It's about continuous learning. I can tell you that I can hold on to somebody. So Anthony, I mentioned Anthony. His wife, he and his wife had twins, A++. Anthony's easily better than me. Easily better than me. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm one of the owners of the company. I'm not going anywhere. And so it's like, Anthony, look, I'm watching you out of the corner of my eye because I know you want to move up, but unless I die, and I'm watching you. I'm watching you. But if you hang with me, I will expand you sideways. I will get you ready to be a CEO so that if you leave this organization, if you go to another department, you will be ready to be what it is that you want to be. Would that be enough? And so expanding folks' knowledge, and millennials, by the way, are the most educated generation that we have in the workforce. Millennials are the most educated. So continuous learning, that's all part of their DNA. All part of their DNA. So tap into something that they care about. Tap into something that they care about by continuous learning. Development and progression opportunities. Look, we know that, you have an idea of how to move to the next level. Make sure that you're helping people, that they feel that you're helping people get to that next level. Because it's not about me deciding that. It's about coming in and making sure that they feel like they're progressing. And so my last assistant, before we sold the company, the day she came in, she got 2 line items on my general ledger. And I got $10 million. I gave her office parties and office supplies. And that's what she had to be responsible for. And I said, the reason why I'm giving you this is because I know she wanted to be a producer. Wanted to be a producer for film and television. That's fantastic, absolutely. One of the things you're going to need to be able to do is to read a financial statement, because everything comes down to money. So here are your 2 line items. I'll give you 2 more things. And you have to report out on those every month. And then at 6 months, I gave her a whole section. So this is how she felt like she was developing. I had 0 involuntary or voluntary turnover. 0 voluntary turnover in my department. Because I had a lot of folks move out and go into other areas because they wanted other things. And I helped them develop those skills so that they felt like they were learning and moving and that they had an opportunity. So again, back to that expanding people wide, right? Back to expanding people wide. Being valued as people, not as labor units. I know that can be very challenging. Anybody in a union environment? In your courts? Yeah. So look, you got rules, right? There's rules. But do people feel like you can still make somebody feel like they're actually valued, what they do matters, they matter, versus the fact of this is your box and this is where we are. This is where you need to be. So we need to value people. Again, back to the fact, if we can create positive working environments, positive working relationships, if people like coming in and like hanging out with you, it helps It makes it harder to leave. Makes it way harder to leave, even for potentially more money. Not being slaughtered for mistakes. I work a lot in banking, and I'm like, look, don't let somebody hit the green button that transfers everything over, transfers all the money out. Don't do that. But anything else, let people learn. Let people learn and not slaughter them for mistakes, because that's actually how we learn. If all I'm doing is telling you to go do this, if I'm not delegating well, what they have to do is it's memorization at that point. And memorization can be hit or miss. But if they truly understand what the end goal is and where we have to get them to, where I want them to get to, now as they encounter problems, or they may not do it that often, they're able to do it because of the fact that that I'm allowing them the space to try to figure it out. And it's in not slaughtering folks for mistakes that people are way more willing to go out on a limb. Now look, I understand there's risk. So the question is what's the ultimate? So for you perfectionists out there, I saw a bunch of you out there. What truly is the risk if they don't do it exactly the way you do it? What truly is that risk? Now, if it truly, it's gonna burn your building down, all right, don't do that. But you've probably got a lot of leg room in there. You've got a lot of runway in there. So allow room for people to make mistakes and come back and say, just like I did with Dave Quick. And what did he say to me? What'd you learn? What are you gonna do differently? Well, I'm not gonna do that again. I'm not gonna come in there. I'm gonna present it differently. Yep, that sounds like a good plan. Figure out how to do that, and you can use me as a guinea pig. Still one of the greatest bosses that I have ever worked for. Because he didn't slaughter me for something really stupid. And instead, he helped me to grow. And what I want to work for somebody who inspires me to be them versus demanding compliance. People are smart enough to comply. Again, people are smart enough to give compliance. I want somebody who's inspired to come in and give their best every day. That's who I want working for me. Now, as we think about kind of driving this home, because again, I got a lot of folks that this whole idea of micromanaging, who thinks they're a micromanager? Don't raise your hands. No. Do your employees think you're a micromanager? Have you asked them? What do you want? What do you need more or less? What do you need from me to be a better leader for you? That's what I want to know. Are you controlling, or is it more about setting goals and giving them autonomy at achieving them? Even if it's a small goal, is it about even understanding? Look, I get it. When you're teaching somebody skills, it's going to take you longer. That's the worst part about it. If somebody could just get it and do it, but no, it's going to take you longer to teach somebody because now I actually have to elevate them. I have to give feedback, and I've got to give feedback again, and then and you're like, oh my God. Let me just do it myself. I feel ya. The challenge, though, is people aren't learning. And guess what? You never get the time to do the strategic stuff that I want you focused on about the long term of where your court is going, thinking about all the technology and stuff like this, because you don't have the time because you're caught up in the day-to-day. So how do we set goals, let people figure out how to do them? We've talked about a lot of these. The only one I would say is really unleashing innovation, asking questions versus telling. Okay, how do you think we should solve this? What do you think? Just like Dave coming in and saying to me, what are other ways that you could present this to folks, to the team, that may get them on board versus telling them that they're idiots? What are other ways? So what he's doing is he is coaching me. So when was the last time that you asked your employees on how to solve problems or making decisions? If you ask that in your meeting and no one says anything, chances are you may be a micromanager. Because if you ask, I worked for a woman, it was on a volunteer board, I was her vice president, she was the president. Clearly Stacy had read a book somewhere that said you need to ask your people what their opinion is. And I said, by the 5th time she did it, I said, Stacy, just tell me what you want me to do, because you've asked me 4 times, and every time you've vetoed me. If you don't listen to me, it doesn't count. So I understand you read a book that told you to do that. Smart move, but you got to listen to me. Or don't ask. So that's how often do we involve and actually listen, folks. Now, I put this in here, and by the way, in the stuff that you can download, there's a technology handout that goes into a little bit more. Because again, it is about you got to get stuff done. Leaders get stuff done. And here's like a dump of, we went in and looked at a lot of different technology that can help get stuff done within the court system. And again, on this one sheet that's available on the app, it has more information about each one of these, gives a little bit more information. Look, technology's it's not my favorite. It's not my greatest skill set. So you know what? I have a 13-year-old mentor. My first one, I've had a 13-year-old mentor for decades. They keep aging out. That's because I need somebody to keep me abreast of what matters and what's going to help, what's going to come in and get to others and get to folks who use technology and who believe in this. Involve them in this. Even better if this is not your skill set. What a way to get folks on board, to get them excited about what's going on. So inspires others. So do you have a team or do you have a group of individuals in your court? When we're creating a team, it really is about sharing the vision, sharing the responsibility, and then sharing the glory. Because if we come together and people feel like they're part of a team, harder to leave. I have a woman I'm coaching. She's an SVP. She just can't help herself. So she just can't help when somebody who works for her comes up and says, oh yes, and presents an idea, she just can't help herself in saying, yeah, I gave her that idea. I gave him that idea. I said, you have got to stop that. I said, your people are going to kill you in your sleep. Like, you cannot do that. Because all you're doing is coming back and saying, it's me, me, me. I said, you're the leader. You don't need to come back and grab a little bit of attention and fame for the suggestions that you have. If your people are doing great, you get credit for that. Like, you get credit for being that leader that's driving employees to be the best. But if you keep coming back and claiming credit for every great idea that they have, even if it's true, your people are going to hate you. And they do. And she had staggering turnover because of the fact that no one was as good as her, and she makes sure that everybody knows it. That's not inspirational. That's not sharing the glory. It's not, because think about it, if you want somebody coming in and being more innovative, being more inspiring, then you have to allow them to come back and get glory and come back and go, wow, you know what? I did a great thing today. Like, let me tell you about it. I want people going home to their spouses and saying, wow, was this great today? I had a great day at the office. Are we allowing people to do that? Now, this is a great skill about adapting your leadership. Has anybody heard of situational leadership? Okay, yeah. Tina, I see you. A few hands over here. All right. So this is, I think, possibly one of the most useful things when it comes to leading employees at a higher level. What I want you to do is think about all of your employees, their skill level versus their will or their attitude. So they got low skills, high skills, they have a lousy attitude, or do they have a great attitude? You have to adapt your leadership to fit where they are in this quadrant. If I've got a superstar, I want to come back and I want to give them stretch assignments. I want to push them and then get out of their way. If I have somebody who's got and think about this. So the moment that I come back and promote somebody, fabulous employee, just a superstar. Then I promote them. Guess what? They're not a superstar anymore. So I have to adapt my leadership to the fact that they now have low skills because I've promoted them. So I can't expect superstar behavior and can't treat them like a superstar because they're learning again. And that's the challenge, is that we don't adapt our leadership. And you're like, oh my God, why is Mary not performing again? Why is Mary? Again, I talked about Mary, absolute superstar. We were working at Oxygen to get sales tax. We were messing up on sales tax. Mary asked to do that project. I was like, really? I'm like, this sounds terrible. I'm like, absolutely you can take this on. She was terrible at it. Like, I got an A++ employee who now, and by the way, this is really complicated. I can't manage Mary like the superstar that she is because she is learning a new skill. So I have to adapt my leadership to be a better leader for her. Now, if I've got somebody who's their attitude's in the toilet, but they got skills, I got to figure out what motivates them. A lot of times what can help motivate folks is giving them teaching or mentoring capabilities, because it's that opportunity for them to share their knowledge. And what I'm trying to do is get their attitude out of the toilet and back up to an acceptable level. So and if you've got somebody who's got, a bad attitude and low skills, bye-bye. Bye-bye. Or I got to get them out of and into one of these other quadrants. I got to get them out of one of these other quadrants. Now, what I've put in here, when you download this rascal, I have given you both like how to lead in each one of these quadrants. And also remember, I talked about questions as how we coach people. So I've got questions in there that can help everybody. So hopefully you have a chance to download this rascal. All right, so elevating your employees through coaching. I know you're like, oh my God, Val, you're kidding me. We got to give feedback, now we got to coach. You're kidding me. Yes, we do, because that's what's being strategic. If I can coach people to the next level, I can take over, I can go on different responsibilities. I can focus on all of the strategic stuff that I've got on my plate, but strategy takes time. And if my employees aren't up to doing anything that I'm responsible for, you're never going to get out. This is a cycle, this is a treadmill that you are never getting off of. So as we think about feedback, feedback is what's already happened, and I'm telling you how I want you to do it differently. Coaching is, I'm elevating them with skills they may not even know they have. And so I'm pushing them to unleash the greatness in themselves that they may not even know. And that's what's super exciting about coaching. Like, I can tell you that I talked about Anthony. Anthony was better than me. Anthony could easily have replaced me. But I'm not going anywhere. And again, I'm an owner of the company. So you know what? Now Anthony is CEO of a very large nonprofit. And I was one of his reference points after the company sold. So that's what we want to do, is building out, really sucking into what's your long-term plan. Okay, all right, it's not within our court system. All right, well, how long are you going to try to give me? You know what? Stay with me and I'm going to expand your skill set. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come back and I'm going to try to convince you that this is exactly where you want to be. And either that or what I want to do is hold on to them until truly the last minute. And then I come back and say to them, how can you help me? Can you help me find someone to replace you? Use your court system, having those employees working for you you are a feeder program that people go, oh my God, I want to work for Tina. I want to work for Jude. I want to work for Greg. Because you know what? They're fabulous leaders. They're fabulous leaders. I feel myself getting smarter just by working with them, just by being around them. That's the reputation we want. That's the strategy that we want, that in retaining and developing employees. Now, I just put together, understand coaching is a process. So Anthony, when we first started at Oxygen, when I first brought him over, he wanted to increase his leadership chops. And understand it's a process. So one of the things that we were doing, we're building $100 million worth of office space and production studios and all that in New York. And I'm the one talking in this meeting. So we agreed that our ultimate goal was for him to lead this meeting, because right now Anthony's sitting on the sidelines taking notes. I don't know what he's doing. He's just sitting on the sidelines, not talking. And to be a leader, you got to talk in meetings. So what we agreed is that the destination, the ultimate destination, is for you to lead this meeting and me be sitting on the sidelines. Now, my goal was for me to be out of the meeting and gain this 3 to 4 hours back a week. I didn't share that. We'll work up to that. I can't throw, by the way, Anthony has not said one word in this meeting. So I can't have him lead this meeting and go, good luck, because that is a bridge too far. So instead, take a strategic approach to developing your people. What I said is that, Anthony, I need you to say 2 sentences in this meeting. They can't be yeah, good idea. That doesn't count. It has to be something that moves the conversation forward. So I said, we put the agenda together. You come in the day before and show me where you're going to add value. 2 sentences, that's all I need. So he comes in, I can do it here, I can do it here. I said, that sounds great. I said, Anthony, by the way, there's no backing out. If you back out, then I'm going to ask you wherever I want what you have to add. So I'm going to call you on the carpet. And he said, all right, I got it. So we go in this meeting, and Anthony develops a stutter, which he has never had before in his entire life. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I'm like, come on, you can do it. And we got out, and he's like, oh, Val, I did terrible. I said, no. I said, we didn't talk about the quality of the 2 sentences. You broke the mold. You talked in this meeting. Let's celebrate. Woo! Celebrate. You did it. You broke it. You broke the code, because before this, he had not said one word. Now, next Tuesday's meeting, all right, now let's talk about quality. Where was your head at? Where was your head when you were saying these 2 sentences? He said, well, I was concerned I was going to, I was nervous. I was inside my head going, God, don't screw this up, blah, blah, blah. And I said, all right, how do you keep your mind out of that negative space? Because it's not helping you. How do you keep it out of that negative space? So that's what we're going for. You got 2 sentences again. Now I need you to stay out of your space and be in the meeting, add the value, and do it without whatever that train wreck was last week. So now I can make fun of him. I couldn't right then because we'd celebrate. And guess what? He did it. And then next time, it's all right, now I need you to add 2 more sentences. Now I need you to do 4. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you lead a section that's non-controversial, that there's no issues, nobody cares about it. But it's an area. But again, you're going to lead this conversation. What you're seeing is I am going through a coaching process with him. I use a coaching process called GROW. It is, what is the current goal? What we know the ultimate goal is for Anthony to lead this meeting and me to be out of it. So but my goal, I can't go to that far because that is a bridge too far. So the goal is 2 sentences. That's how we stair-step somebody in. It is, what is the reality now? So what's our goal? I need you to say 2 sentences. What's the reality now? You've said nothing. So what options do we have available? What options we have is we put the agenda together so you figure out where you can add value in that. That's how, and then what are you going to do? So I'm putting responsibility back on Anthony. It's not me. Now I put pressure on him by saying I'm going to call on you if you don't whip out these sentences. So there's no backing out. This is how we stair-step somebody up. Because if we have them bite off too much, they will fail and it will kill their enthusiasm for life and for growing, working for you. And this is how we keep people if people feel like they can feel their skills expanding. So think about, who are your superstars in your court system? Who are those superstars that you go, you know what? I want that person to stay. How can I coach them? How can I coach them to greater responsibilities? Now, I always say stop asking why. I love this comment. Why didn't you make this deadline? Why wasn't this completed satisfactory? What I want you to ask instead, because the problem is that why backs you into a corner. Why I'm now defending whatever I've done. If I come in and say, how are we going to get this resolved? How are you going to get this in? We need this in right now. How are you going to do that? Then I come back and support it with a what. What can we do to make sure? What would you do differently? What would you do differently next time to make sure we don't miss that deadline? See how I'm not slaughtering people for mistakes. We're getting it solved. We're getting it in through how, and then it's what are we going to do differently? What are we going to do differently in order to make sure that it doesn't happen again? I'm not backing people into a corner. This is how I can get employees being proactive because they know I'm not going to slaughter them for mistakes. Now, if they keep missing every week or there's a problem, I'm going to come back and I'm going to ask them that. Hey, look, whatever system you're doing isn't working. So let's try something different. Give me your calendar, give me your phone. Everybody's got a phone. Let's start putting some dates in there if that's what needs to happen. So again, it is about really pushing folks. Now, when we think about succession planning, so Jude and I spoke about the fact that succession planning would be a potential good topic for here, and I've got some leadership development plans in here. This is, when we think about succession planning, it is about, do you know who's going to be over the guards? Do you know who's going to be over your court employees? Do you know who are you grooming to come in to be the leader, to teach those folks in that area? Who's the person who's going to take your? I mean, one of the great things is that, in your position of power, are you developing that next are you developing those next folks to take over and either be you in your court system or to be somebody else to take over in another court system. That's the power that you have, is the fact that really your goal is to raise the next generation of you. So when we think about this, it's first identifying critical roles. Now, I've listed this if it's impact on strategy, and don't be overwhelmed by this. My question is, I come back and say to you, what are the roles that are critical? Is it specialized knowledge, business continuity, regulatory compliance, innovation and growth, organizational culture, long-term sustainability? Once I know the critical roles in my organization, those that I need to have a succession plan for, now I'm going to come back and look at talent development. Has anybody used anything called 9-Box? Has anybody used 9-Box to evaluate employees? All right. It's a great tool, right? Yeah, I just love it. So you got to look at the roles on who's eligible. So let me walk you through how this works. It looks a little more, like I said, you look at that and you go, oh my God, Val, what are you doing? It's actually not as, what it does is it's letting you figure out who's ready for more. Who's ready for more opportunities? So you want to put, what's their current performance? Is it low or is it high? So low or high, and what is their future potential? And this maps out those folks who are up in that upper right-hand quadrant, that's a high performer, high potential. That then allows me, those are the folks that I'm going to focus on first and make sure that I don't lose them. Maybe they're a moderate performer. Like I look at it, high performer, anybody on that top where it's a high performer, high potential, I'm going after them. You know who they are, whether you use this 9-Box or not. You know who those high potentials are. What are you doing to come in and keep them? What are you doing to come in and keep those rascals and make sure that those folks do not go somewhere else? Because we want those people to stay with us. So if you don't like this, that's all right. No worries if this is too much, but who are your high potentials? Who is currently performing well? Who are your high potentials for potential success or future success? What are you doing to then come in and develop them? Now I have at the end here, there is a leadership development template that you can download and use over and over. And what it draws, and there's also a really nice example in there of talking about development areas, the action plan, and then the target dates. Involve your employees in this. You want them to know that I see you are great. The more that they see that and feel that, the better off they are, and the better off you are at keeping them because of the fact that they feel like they've got growth. They feel like they've got growth potential. That's the strategy of keeping employees right now, which is just a bear. It is really, really challenging to keep talent. And you don't want your great talent to go away. We want them to feel like they matter and know that I've got a plan for them. Stay with me and you're going to grow and develop. That's what will keep people around. I also like start, stop, and continue, measure of success, sources. So here's a sample leadership development plan to hopefully get you started on those high those high potentials in your area. And again, this will kind of walk you through. This is all downloadable. All right, so I'm going to wrap up here. So we've got 5 minutes worth of questions. As we think about what strategy is involved, you have got to be staggeringly sharp on your communications. Because understand, everything comes down to communications. If you're not good, if people don't know what's going on, if they don't feel like they're a part of something, why stay? I might as well go somewhere else if it's $1 more an hour or $0.25 more an hour, or it's the same price, because I don't care, because I feel like I'm part of something. You got to get stuff done, but we got to motivate others to do it, and we got to let go. We have to let go and develop those folks behind us. We have to inspire others through our leadership, and then we need to develop the team, and they need to be a part of it. Now, my final thought, when was the last time that you asked your employees what you needed to do to be a better leader for them? I ask my employees that quarterly. What do you need me to start, stop, or do, or continue to be a better leader for you? I'm the leader. I don't have to do it. So, I don't have to, but if they tell me something, I'm going to come back and say, hey, I thought about what you asked for. I can't go all the way, but here's what I can do to kind of meet you in the middle. Would this be, we're going to baby step towards this. Just like when we baby step towards allowing people to take on responsibilities and fighting that perfectionist. Because look, I know you know how to do it better than anybody, but it doesn't matter. If you want to take vacation, if you want to come to conferences, if you want to do things outside the office and not have your court be crippled, we got to develop the next generation. All right, Jude, how would you like to run? Anybody got any questions? I always love a good Q&A session. Always love a good Q&A. I'm ready. You can ask me anything you want. Anything you want. Yes?
The reality is some employees need to move on, and this is not the job for them. So when do we stop developing them, and when do we start encouraging them to move on?
To move on. Yeah, great question. I love that. Encouraging them to move on. Great question. Well, first off, I come in and ask, are they doing the job well to begin with? Because by the way, some people don't want to move up. So some people don't want to move up. And if you've got, look, we can't have everybody being leaders. Like some folks just have to do the job. And if they're doing their job well and they're not interested in moving up, I'd let them stay. That's fine. Now, I would come back and ask them every year, what do you want to do? I ask a question every year of my folks, where do you want to be in a year? What skill set do you want to do? What level do you want to get to? And some just say, you know what, I don't want to do anything. All right, as long as they're still doing A+ work, I'll let them stay where they're at. If they're not doing A work and I am coaching and developing, by about the third time that I have to coach somebody on the same tactic and I've come back and evaluated my own skills and say, you know what, I have done everything I can and I'm not seeing them progress. I'm not seeing them get to that A-level work at that point. Because, and again, that typically takes me about 3 to 4 times that I'm if we're continuing to go over the same thing over and over. And by the way, I'm helping them to come back and say, look, I need you to write this down. So this is the way. So I have a lot of employees, we moved to different software. And, more seasoned employees, less seasoned employees, when you make changes like that, hey, look, I need you to write this down. I need you to write this down and I need you to refer to this until it comes back and becomes routine. So I'm going to do a lot to try to get them to that point. But if I'm not seeing somebody move, and yet I need somebody to be in that role and to move up, maybe I just leave them where they're at. Because again, a B player B players are good. B players, I can live with B players. I can't live with C. And if I can't get somebody from a C to a B, now I'm going to, after repeated coaching and feedback, and we've done things that I've really helped them to try to get it together, now I'm going to come back and start and looking to move them out. Is that helpful? Great. All right. Who else has a question?
Hello.
Oh.
Hi, thank you for the wonderful lecture. One thing that I appreciated is how you beautifully outlined empowering employees versus micromanaging.
Feels so good to micromanage.
It does. It's easier, right? No, I was wondering if you can speak to your experiences while you outlined some thoughts and you talked about it briefly. How do you broach those topics? Because in my experience, people can, at times, misconstrued micromanagement for accountability. And so how do you talk about the differences with your folks who seem to be confused between the two terms?
That's a tough question. I have to admit, I have a tendency, I am pretty vocal with my employees. When I give an assignment, when I give a project or a role or something, I come in and say, all right, how much input do you want from me? Here's when it's due. By the way, I'm enough of a micromanager that I'm not going to wait until the Friday that it's due. You have to let me know where it is midstream. I said, it's just what I need. So that I know that it's getting done. And by the way, the more that you come in and get projects done, the more I'll be out of your knickers. And so I have a tendency to be very vocal. And if I've given somebody a project and they missed a deadline, I'm going to tell them, hey, look, the last time I gave you a project, we missed the deadline. I can tell you right now, I am going to micromanage you on this because we cannot miss deadlines. So I'm going to micromanage you. But understand that once we build up trust, then I'll let go. So I have a tendency to handle it like that. And I will also come in and say, am I giving you too much direction? What's driving you crazy about this project? And about me in managing this project. And they'll typically share, well, it feels like you're being pretty micromanaging. All right, yep, I hear you. What would be less micromanaging, but at the same time keeping me abreast of things? Because the challenge is if you don't keep me posted on what's going on, I'm going to start getting antsy, and I'm going to come in and start asking questions. So I think that I just have a conversation about why it is that I'm wanting to know this information. That understand that my boss is asking me continuously. So my judge is asking me about this, and I know that she's going to ask me about that every friggin' time I walk into her courtroom. So I'm telling you what, every time I'm going to walk in there, and I'm going to ask you what's going on so that I know. So I guess I'm sharing the why I need information, why I'm coming in and following up and asking, and then I'm having a conversation about the fact of if I feel like I'm having to be micromanaging, why I'm doing that. Because I didn't get enough forewarning that we were going to miss the deadline. So I'm not comfortable just letting you run off with this. So I need check-in points and I need to see hard details because just telling me, oh, we're on track, I don't buy that because you said that last time. So are you willing to work with me to get the trust factor back up? And then the more that we can build that trust back up, the more I'll get out of your knickers and let you run with it. Hopefully there's something in there that helps you. I'm way more about having conversations with employees and telling folks that I can't let you go based on previous performance. And once we build up that trust, then I can let go. And by the way, if somebody's telling me that I'm micromanaging them, I'm going to try to meet them as halfway as I can. Well, maybe not halfway. Maybe an eighth of a step. Maybe an eighth of a step. All right, folks. Thank you so much. I'm getting the boot. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Tina.